Sioux Falls Planning Commissions, and I will begin with a few introductory comments. First of all, I'm Bonnie Duffy. I am the chair for the County Planning Commission, and I have Eric Nyberg here. He is the chair for the Sioux Falls Planning Commission. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure that all cell phones are turned off. Please note that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be rebroadcast via CityLink and posted on the www.minnehahacounty.org site for viewing by the general public. The two planning commissions work together on land use and zoning matters within the rural area surrounding the city. The area is displayed on the screen. When this joint hearing is completed, the joint Sioux Falls and County Planning Commission will adjourn, and the next regular business meeting will begin to consider items beyond the joint zoning jurisdiction with Sioux Falls. Any final action taken on the conditional use permit applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Monday, August 30th at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission and City Council for a joint hearing on Tuesday, September 28th at or after 5 p.m. That meeting is held in Carnegie Town Hall at 235 West 10th Street. Action taking on the text amendment during the public hearing tonight is a recommendation that will be forwarded to the County Commission and City Council for another public hearing on Tuesday, September 28th at or after 5 p.m. Joint meetings of the County Commission and City Council are held in Carnegie Town Hall at 235 West 10th Street. First on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all of the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. The minutes from the October 22nd meeting are included in the consent agenda. Does any Planning Commission member wish to have an item removed for discussion? Okay, next I'll read each item on the consent agenda and ask if there are any issues or comments from the staff or the audience. If any member of the staff or the audience would like to be heard on the item, please raise your hand, and the item will be moved to the regular agenda to allow you to address the commission later in the meeting. Any items remaining on the consent agenda will be approved by the Planning Commission with the conditions recommended by staff. That first item is approval of the minutes of the July 26, 2021 meeting. Item number 2 is conditional use permit number 21-58 to transfer one building eligibility from the southwest quarter, and there's an exception of 8,300 feet, the east 475 feet, and accept the north 66 feet, the west 968 feet, and accept Fred Assa Memorial Park Addition, and accept part in city limits. And Track 6, accept Track 4, and Track 5, Willow Ridge Addition. 17-101-48 Split Rock Township to the north half, the southeast quarter, and the southeast quarter, the northeast quarter, except the north 300 feet, west 581 feet, and except Track 1, Assams Addition. And Colbrecht's Tracks 1A and 2A, except Track 1B, and except H-1. And the west half, the northeast quarter, except Tracks 1 and 3, and except part number 363 feet, northwest quarter, northeast quarter, east of Track 3, and except the south 300 feet. 17-101-48 Split Rock Township. The petitioner is North Sam Incorporated. That's also the property owner. It's along Madison Street, approximately a half a mile east of 6 Mile Road.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the consent agenda.
I have a motion and seconded to approve the consent agenda, and this is on the county side. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes.
Commissioners, the consent agenda has been approved on the county side. Can I get a motion on the city side?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Just a second, was that with the conditions that are on there, I thought there was 2 conditions.
Are there conditions on the conditional use permit?
There is 2.
I would imagine that those were.
That's correct. That's
That
part
is
of it.
correct. That was
Yes.
part of my motion.
Any further discussion, commissioners? All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. The consent agenda has passed on the city side.
If this item, if the conditional use permit number 21-58, it was approved, you are free to go. For the regular agenda, we will follow our normal hearing procedure by requesting the planning staff to present a report on each item, and then request the petitioner, or in this case, it's just a zoning text amendment, which Scott will go over with us. And that is under the regular agenda. Item number 3, zoning text amendment, 21-04, to amend the 2002 revised zoning ordinance for Minnehaha County and the city of Sioux Falls to add medical cannabis dispensary regulations. Scott?
Thank you. Scott Anderson, County Planning. As most of us are aware, IM 26 was a ballot measure which was voted on by the citizens and people of South Dakota in November of 2020. That's a typo, not 2021. Which took effect on July 1st of 2021. The South Dakota Department of Health is working through the administrative process and procedures and anticipates that their rules will become effective by October 29th, 2021. While the state is working on their administrative process, local zoning must be adopted to address the land use issues which will be associated with medical cannabis. There was a task force that was made up of local of elected officials and administrative officials. That task force met 3 times in July to discuss how to introduce medical cannabis into the community. And based on the general direction that came out of that task force, staff has prepared an ordinance amendment which would allow medical cannabis in the C commercial districts and the I-1 light industrial district as a special permitted use. This means that if the proposed uses meet the criteria set forth in the zoning ordinance it would just be permitted in those 2 zoning districts. Those requests not meeting the criteria could seek a conditional use permit. The ordinance amendment also creates a definition of medical cannabis dispensary or just a dispensary. The proposed zoning ordinance amendment should become effective close to that October 29th, 2021 date, the date that the state's rules would go into effect. The county will be adopting a separate ordinance that would address the licensing of medical cannabis dispensaries and how those are handled, like transfers, the cost of licensing. That would be a separate ordinance, and that would be ran through, just through the county, because that's not a land use issue. So I do have a general outline that I'll go over that sort of explains the ordinance a little bit further, and we can talk about the criteria a little bit. So, as I indicated, let me see how this works here. So, we adopted it adds medical cannabis dispensary as a list in the permitted special uses in the C commercial district, and it provides a definition. And that definition is an entity registered with the State of South Dakota Department of Health pursuant to SDCL Chapter 34-20G, that acquires, possesses, stores, delivers, transfers, transports, sells, supplies, or dispenses cannabis, cannabis products, paraphernalia, or related supplies and educational materials to cardholders. The text amendment would add the use of medical marijuana dispensary or medical cannabis dispensary to the list of permitted special uses. And then we have the criteria. And the criteria is that the dispensaries must meet all South Dakota Department of Health regulations and licensing requirements. That would be item number 1. Item number 2, that they have to comply with, in all times, with the Department of Regulations pertaining to such facilities. And then we would require that there would be a 1,000-foot setback from single-family residences, schools, churches, daycares, public use facilities, parks, and most importantly, any other medical cannabis dispensary. It outlines the location requirements. They are not allowed to have a drive-through. It controls the hours of operation. It sets forth the hours of operation. It controls potential nuisances such as smells, vapors, and odors. It regulates the ages of customers permitted in the business. It prohibits the use of medical cannabis on the site. It requires a disposal plan. It requires a security and a fire protection plan, and also then requires a site plan and floor plan. If those criteria are met, and it is in the C1 or C commercial or I1 light industrial district, it could be allowed as a permitted special use. Now, I want to make sure that we're clear that the number of establishments will be set by a different ordinance. So then that is going to be set. We're not regulating the number of establishments. That will be done through a joint ordinance with the city and the county, and likewise the county. So I would be glad to answer any questions. We're recommending approval. This has been, the task force has reviewed this proposed ordinance, and it is the recommended form that we proceed ahead with at this time. But I would be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Oh, I do have a question.
Larry.
So the numbers are not matching up, that what we have to what's up there. I'm just trying to clarify that it's the same thing.
Well, this was a synopsis.
Okay.
So I can go over each one again.
So is number 1 basically the conditional, the request to meet adopted criteria? Is that number 1 that's on ours? Because we have 11 and there's 10 up there, so that's why I'm,
That's just a synopsis.
okay.
So there's 11 conditions,
Okay,
criteria.
okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Scott, the county, are they just looking to dispense, or is there going to be any of the manufacturer
No.
production?
So let me grab my notes here, because that was discussed in our at the task force. And let me so there's the cultivation, there's the manufacturing, the testing, and the dispensaries. And we are not going to allow the cultivation, the manufacturing, or the testing. And I did learn a lot about this through the task force. So the testing is basically testing the content in like edibles and other material, and the manufacturing is where they're actually making the product, and then the cultivation's where they're actually growing the plants. And at this time, it's my understanding that The dispensaries need to be allowed under state law. That's what was voted on, and so that is the minimum that has to be allowed. Anything above that is at the discretion of the local jurisdictions.
Very good, thank you.
Can you explain the difference between the cultivation and the manufacturing again? The cultivation's the growing, the manufacturing is?
The cultivation is the growing, the manufacturing is the making of the edibles, the
Like taking it from raw
the
form?
tinctures,
making it-
there's the oil, there's all kinds of different ways of delivering that product. And then the testing is where they test the amount of TCB or the chemical in the plants and the products.
Thank you.
One more question. So something different than what we have on the city proposed one is that, it looks like you guys want 24 hours security video. Number 10. I was just trying to figure out what the thought process was on that.
It's not necessarily, it's just 24-hour security. Not that you have to have video, it's just that you have, that the plan needs to identify that you're going to have round-the-clock security. So it doesn't say it requires 24-hour video, just the 24-hour security of the building.
Because the surveillance system, that typically to me is video cameras, and that's why I was questioning that.
Yeah, but the way it's written is, you have to have a manner for 24-hour security, and then there's tracking, record keeping, retention, and surveillance systems to be utilized in the system. It doesn't say that you have to have 24-hour surveillance systems, the way that I'm reading that.
Doesn't the city require the same things? It just wasn't included in the ordinance that was adopted?
I'll wait for the city does require a security plan.
Yeah. So,
The city's proposal, I'd say the second reading for that one is September 7th.
right.
Is that the same as kind of this that's here?
Guess as I sit here, I'm not sure if there's any difference in the wording. I think that the intent is to be a security plan. But council has seen had the first reading, but I don't know if there'll be any modifications before the second reading.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, Scott, where did the 1,000 feet come from?
Came from the task force.
Okay. To me, I don't know if it should be more. My gut feeling tells me it should be at least 1,500. Don't ask me why I say that, but 1,000 feet's less than a quarter of a mile, and that's my concern is, so I just wanted to state that.
Yep, I understand. The 1,000 feet was the consensus of that task force.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
Any other questions for Scott?
Scott,
Go ahead.
so if someone wanted to be at variance with these regulations, they could come forward and say, well, I'm 1,430 feet away. You know, could they then get a license for operation then? I mean, if they don't exactly fit the parameters, they can still come in.
that's correct. If they don't meet the criteria set forth in the zoning ordinance, the 11 items, then they have the option of applying for a conditional use permit.
And I would just point out that there's no distance from a bar. You could potentially have a shack in the parking lot of a bar,
That's correct, provided the bar meets all the setback requirements.
and they have 24-hour security on the shack. Okay.
So, Madam Chairman, this is a public hearing, so you will need to make sure that we solicit any public comment or comments from the public.
Okay.
Madam Chair, do we have a definition for public use facility?
A public use facility? you can, if you look in your binder, Article 26, I don't have it with me, my zoning ordinance, but if you look in Article 26, you can look in, under the definitions and see if there is a definition for public use facility. I would suppose not. We don't have a definition for a lot, many things there, aren't covered in in the definitions.
I guess I got another question.
Go ahead.
I just thought of once you said some stuff. So on a conditional use permit, I know in the city, we actually set it at a minimum of 500 feet to 1,000 or 999. Is that something that we're going to be looking at here? I didn't see anything here. So if we were to do a conditional use, I mean, they could be a foot away from one of these land uses and.
That's
gotta get a
correct.
Or conditional use permit.
No, we didn't, it's not specified in our, in this ordinance amendment. So anything less, if you are less than 1,000 feet, you could apply for a conditional use permit. But you know, if we want to do if we want to use your example of you're 100 feet or 10 feet away from a church, I mean, then I think we need to use the discretion of the planning commission and staff and, you know, would we really allow that? I think the intent of the zoning ordinance is, you know, and I don't want to get bogged down in the distances because, you know, still has to be in a commercial or in an industrial zoning district. But, you know, if it's a minor, I would say if it was, you know, 900 feet, that would probably be something that would be, you know, I think some thought could be given to whether that would be something that we'd want to give a conditional use permit to.
The only problem, I don't want it, like, because over time, I mean, we kind of have to have something put in place so that we keep everyone treated fairly and the same. And, you know, it would be something I would recommend that we come up with some type of minimum for conditional use because it would be dependent on whoever wants to say, hey, this can go through or not. You know, go to the planning commission where sometimes it might not be recommended that it goes to the planning commission. So I just want to make sure that everyone that brings it forward is treated the same way, is what I'm just trying to throw out there.
Okay, any other questions for Scott?
I have a question on, I believe with the city, we looked at, you know, 1,000 feet from a special use, but then also 1,000 feet from another dispensary.
Mhm.
Do we have any requirements or regulations on how far spaced apart the facilities need to be
From each other?
from each other?
Yes, 1,000 feet.
Right.
Oh, they need to be, okay, I missed that, I'm sorry.
Right here. And it's basically right here.
Got it,
Over there.
got it, okay.
And the one that's, you can't give on is a school, correct? 1,000 feet is basically what it is. I believe so.
That may be coming from the state.
Yeah.
It's a requirement.
Paul Baker with the city attorney's office. The state regulations currently require that it be 1,000 feet from any public or private school. So it could not be closer based upon current state,
Thank you.
current state law.
Any further questions for Scott? Jeff?
So Scott, the signage issue, they can't put a sign up advertising that this is their business location, right? Could they put a sign up that says garage sale? I thought I read that you can't have any, I hope they can put their address on the building.
There's no, it's not a there's nothing in items 1 through 11 that preclude them from having a sign. They would have to meet the sign ordinance.
No exterior sales and sidewalk displays shall
Oh.
be permitted. Number 4.
Number 4.
I think that's,
That's actually I think that's the display of the material to be sold. So if you read the first sentence, it's piggybacking on the very first sentence. It says, "The facility must operate entirely within an indoor enclosed and secure facility. No exterior sales or sidewalk displays shall be permitted." Doesn't say anything about signage.
You have signage on the building. You just can't have anything, signage on a sidewalk or.
Sure.
Be able
So
to-
signage on the building would be okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for Scott? Okay, is there anyone in the audience that cares to address this item?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve this text amendment as written, Amendment 21-04.
I'd second that.
I have a motion seconded to approve the zoning text amendment 21-04. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
Motion passes on the county side.
Commissioners, the county side has passed zoning text amendment 21-04. Can I get a motion on the city side?
Move to approve Johnson.
Go ahead, Kurt.
I was gonna say, I'll make a motion to approve Johnson.
Second, Paulson.
A motion and a second. Commissioners, further discussion tonight on this item?
I think one thing we should look at in the future is coming up with a conditional use standard, just to make it fair for everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner Lukey. Commissioners, other further discussion?
I think also in general, this seems fairly parallel to what Sioux Falls has passed, so that's why I'm in support of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Irvin. Commissioner Paulson?
I'll be in support of this as well for the fact that it does provide a consistent approach with the city.
Thank you, Commissioner Paulson. Further discussion tonight, Commissioners? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. The zoning text amendment has passed on the city side.
We have no old business or no new business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor on the county side?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Commissioners, the county has adjourned. Could I get a motion to adjourn on the city side?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Lukey?
And I can second Fisher.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. We are adjourned on the city side. Thank you.